You're now tuned in to the hottest podcast in the world, the Stay Woke Podcast, right here on TheSonicBreakdown.com.
Man, it's time to wake up. Get this cake up. Only thing I care about is switching.
Welcome back to another Stay Woke Podcast. This is DeRa Brinson, and you know the Stay Woke Podcast is presented by TheSonicBreakdown.com. So if you haven't checked out an article or review, definitely go check that out now at TheSonicBreakdown.com. Let's get right into it. So we're going to break down the first series of Netflix original show called The Defenders. If you don't know, we've kind of alluded and prefaced this for a long time. The Luke Cage and the Daredevil talk, as well as Iron Fist. And we're finally here. And of course, for this podcast, you know we had to get ready in the building. So what's up, man?
Yo, thank you for having me again. I've been hella excited about this Defenders, man. It was definitely an experience watching the show, so I'm very excited to get ready to talk about it.
Okay. For those of you out there, Defenders is kind of a compilation of individual superheroes being put together, making a group or a collective. So we can't really talk about the Defenders without breaking down who makes up this group and what their powers are, what they're about. So let's first break down that the Defenders is a group that is consisted of Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Daredevil, and Iron Fist. And then we're going to have Ready break down. Well, let's start out with Luke Cage. Break down a little bit of a brief description of like who he is and what his powers are.
Yeah, you know, if you've watched any of the Netflix originals, he had his own series, which was actually pretty dope and broke down a good amount of who he is. He doesn't go by the moniker in this one as most other people know him by as Power Man. You know, they alluded into his show, but he's basically an African-American man that was from Harlem, the Bronx. He's from the regular city, and he goes to jail. You know, some stuff goes down. You know, typical story, unfortunately, that we see with our black and brown brothers in the neighborhood. He goes down. He gets locked down into a shady prison. Shady prison's looking for some little bit of money, and so they experiment on him. And in doing so, he gets this unique ability to basically become a bulletproof black man. But not even just that, because people just think about his bulletproofness, because you can't be just bulletproof. You have to have powers with it that make that possible. So one of the things you can think of is his tissues themselves are basically made of steel.
Okay.
So it's not just that his skin is hella hard, because your skin is hard, but the rest of your body's soft, you're still crappy. So his skin is basically steel, his bones are steel. He has super healing, basically, just not like Wolverine healing. You know, he has a limit, but also that he has enhanced strength. And since he was in the prison and had to get into those fights, he has extensive background in fighting.
Gotcha. Now, I want to just touch on the fact that a lot of people, I guess, get the misnomer or misconception that Luke Cage's skin is impenetrable. That's not quite the case. And if you saw season one,
correct,
they showed that it's not that it's not impenetrable. It can be penetrated, but it's very, very hard to penetrate.
As well as when we saw with Jessica Jones at the end of her series, when she had to shoot him in the back of the head, even though he has high levels of impenetrability, shock, damage can still go through, as we've seen throughout this particular series when he was fighting certain people. Without talking about him, certain hits were able to hurt him, but it may have not penetrated his skin. So you got to realize,
like concussion blows, things of that nature. So if we were designing the perfect villain for him, somebody with
the Shocker,
exactly,
the Shocker would destroy
or somebody
him.
with sonic properties similar to the Shocker would be able to damage him. And he'd have to figure out a way to overcome that.
Yep.
And I just want to briefly name the actor that plays Luke Cage. And if you haven't checked out Luke Cage, the individual series, you should definitely check that out. And that actor's name is Michael Coulter. Just quickly, I think in the solo series that they did of Luke Cage, both of us agreed that we thought that was a great series and that he did a great job of portraying the role.
Oh, most definitely. That's why I was so excited that, you know, for a fact they brought him back, because he embodied what you would expect of Luke Cage. He looks like the actual drawing of Luke Cage, which is super dope. And then has the demeanor like, I'm not trying to get rich. I'm just really trying to help my hood.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's very, if you've seen the show, it's very indicative of Harlem. I do want to ask you, who would be his major villain? Now, and some of the information that we're giving is tied to the show itself, The Defenders, and the individual shows that are on Netflix, but it's also comic book lore. So for all those out there that's saying, well, that's not what they said in the show or whatever, we're kind of combining all of the lore together and giving you kind of a breakdown of that. Who would you say is his biggest villain in the comic book series? And tell me if that correlates to what we assume is his biggest villain from this from the Defenders itself, as well as the individual Luke Cage movie.
And
Or show, I should
and
say.
it is. That's the one thing. That's why I loved it so much more, because Diamondback was like his critical villain. He was Batman's Joker. You feel me? Like, he always defeated him, but he always came back. Where he would lose and then come back. That was his other side of his coin.
So they were consistent in that manner.
Yeah, so that's why in the series itself, when we talked about it, I was surprised that they killed him off so quickly. Because, yeah, of course, certain villains die, and he does die, but to make it happen so quickly when there was so much more potential for so much more elaboration of the Luke Cage Diamondback brotherhood / enemy / frenemy. Like, it had so much dynamic. So I was a little sad about that, but I saw why, because he does have other villains, but he's not the best solo. Just like the rest of the crew, each one of them. That's why I loved how they made the Heroes for Hire / Defenders, because solo they don't have the most elaborate stories or the elaborate powers, but together they're one of the best. I say like BC class teams.
And what is the last scene that we saw from Luke Cage season 1? What I remember is very last scene is just him driving to prison. Or, well, not driving. He's not driving. He's, of course, incarcerated, so he's in the back of the seat. But
yeah,
they're driving him out of New York to, I believe, Atlanta, Georgia, to go to prison.
Yep.
So I just wanted to tie that in so that if you haven't seen Luke Cage, now you know how. If you haven't seen the Defenders yet, you know how it all ties in together.
For a cool minute, I forgot about that, because I remember how sad I was. I was like, dude, first time you saved the city, you had to go to jail. Second time, you technically saved that whole entire state, and now you're about to go right back to lockup. It just shows you that recidivism cycle, that even when you do something good as a black man or a person that has been incarcerated with a felony record, no matter what, you go back. And that was one of the dynamics I know we'll touch on later, but I'll say a little bit over here, is the Luke Cage and the Iron Fist, when we saw the difference from perspectives and realities of what power you really
hold that.
All right, I'll bring it back.
That's just a little teaser for y'all out there, but we definitely going to touch into that, because I think the scene that you're talking about, I think, was very pivotal in just society today. I think it showed different dynamics, but we'll get into that. Let's move on to Jessica Jones, who's as I stated, another component of the Defenders or Heroes for Hire, which they kind of alluded to in the series, but again, we'll get into a little bit more of that later. Jessica Jones is the character. The actor's name who plays her is Kristen Ritter. Give us her powers and break her down a little bit for us.
So most people don't know, because they didn't really allude it much in Jessica Jones, but Jessica Jones, her power retrieval or how she obtained her powers is kind of similar to Luke Cage's, which is kind of interesting with, their dynamic. But she was actually in a car accident when she was dosed with chemicals. And when she got dosed with these chemicals, she has some basic abilities, but we don't get to really see her full extent till only at certain points in both the TV series and Defenders. But super strength, as we know, more durability. But the one we always get the hint of but never actually see is her ability to actually fly. Jessica Jones can fly, but ever since the whole Kilgrave thing, her mind has been, as we've seen throughout the series, so in turmoil, where it's such a traumatic experience where Kilgrave did such a dirty things to her, where she's still mentally
traumatized.
She's traumatized. She has PTSD, and her way of dealing with it was drinking and beating people's asses. That's who she is. So that's, like, Jessica Jones has always been that chick. And
I want to touch on the aspect of flight and her ability to fly, because as we all know with these comics, some characters have powers that make sense into how they got them, and some don't. Like, again, this is a different world, but let's say, actually, no, it is Marvel. Magneto. Okay. Magneto can fly, but the explanation of his flight isn't that he's just propelling himself. He's using the magnetic forces of the world, of the planet, to allow him to float, which is he's really not flying in essence. He's using gravitational
moving
force.
himself into the world.
Using gravitational forces to push him higher, elevation wise.
I see what you're going at.
So what is it? Because super strength does not guarantee that you can fly.
So
super strength means you can jump far, and it might seem like you're flying, like with the whole
leap tall buildings in a single bound, right?
Jumps like in the individual movies that they had of him, where he's jumping from, like, I think Colorado, Arizona, wherever, far. Yeah. If you take a snapshot of in between him jumping and in between him landing,
he's either propelling forward or falling.
It looks like he might be quote unquote flying, but he's not. He's just jumping really far. So They don't explain that. Okay.
At least not to mine. So Jessica Jones said, I'll say this and I'll say it proudly. So if someone is listening, knows a little bit more specifically about her flight ability, please, hit us up, and I would love to have a conversation about it. But I've never heard any explanation why she can fly.
Okay.
But it has said that it's very hard for her to fly, and that's why we never really see her do that.
Okay. Following that with, you brought up Kilgrave, and
Purple Man.
Is he as well in comic book lore the main villain for her as well?
Yeah, because he was the one, because before she really got in touch with Kilgrave / Purple Man, she was a full-fledged comical costume-wearing hero.
Okay.
She was out there trying. We even saw it a little bit in Jessica Jones, where they had her little outfit at that one moment in the beginning of the series when they were flashing back.
Okay.
But she was, and then basically they kind of met, and from that point on, her life was crap. He basically molested her, beat her ass, made her kill people just for the
the ultimate form of manipulation.
Yeah. Anything he said she had to do. And I mean, not till later on did we see she develop some ability to stop him, but she is the only being to ever be able to stop his ability in out the comic books. Mm-hmm. He has like that universal absolute hypnosis. If he says something, you do it. Jessica Jones, for some reason, maybe through the trauma she experienced or the evolution of his powers getting stronger while she was getting stronger, she's able to at least fight it. But he did so much stuff. That's why she no longer really wants to be helpful, quote unquote, but she still has to because that's who she is.
So possibly it's kind of like the fact that he had a hold on her such an early stage in her powers is kind of like a vaccination. Yeah. She got a little dose of him, and he wasn't at his full strength either.
Yep.
And so it gave her body time to adjust and figure it out. In comparison to everybody else, he garnered his full strength. So it's no longer like a vaccine where it's a little bit of dose and you learn how to adapt around it. It's the full dose and it kills you.
Yep.
I mean, not saying that he kills you, but it takes over. He will kill you.
Also with that, the thing that people don't realize is she was one of his first people of power. Like everybody else was just regular people he was controlling. So he never had that someone could even kind of resist because you're just a regular dude. But then when you finally realize that someone you met is, I'm super powerful with some kind of power that you never had before, it changes that ability where now he's like, oh shit, I gotta try a little bit harder because, this chick can do some shit that I've never seen before. If she even kind of gets out of my grasp, I'm dead. So he had to force himself. They always say that conflict breeds, success. And that, unfortunately, was a jacked up relationship, but it bred the success of both of their powers in certain ways.
And I'm coming up kind of short of what I remember the last scene of season 1 of Jessica Jones.
Well, she basically went back into her apartment. And when she went back into her apartment, I forgot the other dude's name. He was saying the bullet holes things. I'm learning how to patch bullet holes.
No. That was at the end of Defenders. I'm talking about the end of Jessica Jones.
Oh, go back to Jessica Jones. Okay.
And to be honest, I don't remember. I should have.
So I remember she just shot him in the back of it.
The only thing I remember is that basically, I think it kind of was similar to what you were saying here. She goes back to her office and the door's taped up, kind of giving the indication that like she's done.
Yeah.
Again,
so her glass is no longer there in the last one. She just has the brown thing in the beginning, and you don't really get to see the inside of hers. But to me, that kind of was alluding to the Heroes for Hire, because once we see at the end of Defenders, if we go like Defenders has to be after Jessica Jones, she has a new one that says Alias, and when we seen the Alias one for Jessica Jones, that was the beginning of the
Heroes for Hire.
Heroes for Hire. So I can see Defenders either kind of going into that, or since they're going with. Because in the comic book, the Defenders aren't the Heroes for Hire. Those are two different heroes altogether. So I'm assuming since they're going this world.
Merging it together.
Merging as one, it's going to say Defenders eventually by probably the next series.
We're going to get back to it, guys, I know. But I just want to touch on that. I think in that situation, I don't think it will say the Defenders. I think it will say, I think the title of the show, of course, will always say the Defenders. But on that door that we're talking about, that specific door, I think it will say, or allude to something of Heroes for Hire.
Because, I hope so, because Heroes for Hire is dope.
I don't see them going around saying, yeah, we're the Defenders. You know what I'm saying? Or, oh, somebody better call the Defenders. No, it's going to be, oh, we got to go call those heroes. And then, or they're going to play on the words Heroes for Hire.
Yeah.
In some way. At least that's what I think. But going back, let's now touch in on Daredevil, or as his government name is, Matthew Murdock. And the actor who plays Matthew Murdock is Charlie Cox. So just break down him like we did with Luke Cage, his powers and how he manifests these powers.
I don't know if you did this on purpose, but you made it almost complete segue where you had, for the 4 members on the team, only 3 of them got doused in chemicals. And all 3 of them were right in order of basically the age as well as when they would have got doused with chemicals. So it's kind of funny, but you probably...
It was unintentional, but my
mastermind doesn't even know it yet.
My subconscious might have put that together. I don't know.
But once again, this is another, age-old story. But this one, he actually happened at the youngest compared to all of them. He was a child, usually in early teens, going home from school. Accident happens, gets his chemicals in his eyes that basically make him blind. But not only does it make him blind, when we see his actual abilities, he has like what we wish actual blind people were. He had all his other senses are so enhanced that he basically has got a quote-unquote 6th sense if we only had 5. Which, just for y'all that don't know, we actually have around about 21 different senses. But he basically has, like, I would say, a hero sense, where he almost has the spidey sense where he can sense things when they're happening. Because of his hearing and his feeling and being taught by basically a blind ninja, he knows everything that's happening in almost a 360-degree radius. And I would say about a mile or more around him. So when we see that where he can tell, like, there's 6 people in there, one of them's fighting, something's going on. He doesn't have the exact detail to know, like, every aspect that you have a sword, but he may know you have a gun. You may have so many bullets in that gun. His powers have varied when it comes to his sense. But with that sense, we also see, he's highly trained. He's one of the few that actually can go head to head with any kung fu master inside this universe and not be destroyed, because he's been trained by one of the Stick, which is the ultimate ninja, but he was also part of Kung Lung, which we've learned about through this series, as well as if you ever saw the Daredevil, they talked about Kung Lung in the hand. So he had the training of the world's renowned best kung fu people in the world. Yeah. And he made it where he adapted himself. That's why he's such a decisive person when he fights, because he hears and he notices everything before you see it. Since everyone else relies on their sight, you see him constantly in a fight knocking out the lights. You'll see him not breaking something because it gives him even more of an advantage against you.
Just to touch on that, he basically is capitalizing on the fact that since sight is such a strong sense for humans, I'll limit it to the species. That is such a strong sense for humans that we overly rely on sight, and we only take I won't say only, but if you weigh the 5 major senses, we put 90% of our stock in sight, if not more, which is the saddest part. So it's not, to me, it's more of the fact that he's allowing all of, like we said, he's his other senses were not inhibited, but enhanced as a result. But it's just the fact also that he's allowing for that input from all those senses to get a better understanding of his environment, where we just walk around and don't, and just use that one sense. So I think that's important. The other thing I wanted to say as well is, it's not just only the fact that he has those senses enhances, but his understanding. And let's say you took 90% of the people and you gave him the information that he's getting from all his senses. I don't think we can still interpret it and determine what that's, and analyze that data and tell it and to give it what it's saying, okay, that's saying that there's 6 people in this room. That there's
16 bullets you shot because I heard all 16 shots.
Exactly.
And now the chamber
or that
weighs
there's
differently.
17 floors in this space because of the amount of ambient sound that is created by an empty room. Or the fluctuations in your heartbeat indicating that you're lying versus that you're just nervous. Like those little details, those little nuances is things that he internalizes, and I think that gives him an advantage outside of the advantage of improved other senses.
And we've seen that throughout this particular series, where at first they, the whole concept of he's just a blind lawyer, and then they realize how he is blind, but somehow he has these other abilities. But you could see the development of how shocked the other team members were when he did things like, yo, you can tell I'm lying? How can you tell that a mile away 16 dudes are coming? Like, you could see the amount of information he has to be able to process. It has to be to such a level that his brain processing power has to be altered, because to really even know, like, I'm in my room, we're in the living room, and how do I know that the dog is sitting on the bed eating this particular bone at this right level? But he can process each one of those smells, sounds, and feelings to the level of seeing the room clearer than you could see with your eyes.
Yeah, the ability to differentiate between minute levels of information, I think is a key. What would you say is his major villain?
So his has always been the Hand, because he's a.
Would you say is the Hand or Fisk?
Fisk was he was a villain, but he wasn't the major villain. Daredevil was always made and created almost like like Iron Fist. He was made to destroy the Hand. So when in all his major comic books, and almost everything happened, even when Fisk is involved, there's always a background of he may have been getting help by the Hand, or he could have been a part of the Hand, or the Hand is influencing him. He always had that background presence that he could never escape. I mean, from the love of his life, from when he tried to get out of it, from the law associates that gave him stuff, the Hand had the Hand in every aspect of his life, where there was never a time he was not really involved with the Hand. He had, random other people. We got Fisk, we got we got Jake Murdoch, we got these other people that did jacked up things, but in the underlying, it was always still the Hand.
Daredevil has an advantage in this regard, and I'm not saying as an advantage as a superhero or anything like that, just an advantage in the cinematography of it is the fact that he had 2 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Where Jessica Jones had 1 and Luke Cage had 1, as well as Iron Fist. They all had 1 season. So I feel like people got a better and bigger connection with Matthew Murdock, Daredevil, Foggy, and just that dynamic and the relationship with him. So the last thing that I remember from, I think, Daredevil season 2 was Elektra dying.
Yeah.
And
him quitting the law firm.
Yeah, him quitting the law firm because he's dealing with that. I'm gonna just throw this out there. Don't reply, but I wonder if Fisk is ever going to make an appearance moving forward, because we never really, like, that's still out there dangling. Like, that's just a tie, but we'll leave that just for all you out there. I'm thinking about that. Just put it that way.
Okay, I got you.
Now let's move on to the final member of the Defenders and the last to, in essence, join if we're going through the Netflix timeline. Daredevil was first, Jessica Jones, then Luke Cage, and then Iron Fist. Iron Fist, or also known as Danny Rand. And also, just quickly, the dynamic is Luke Cage, he doesn't have really a fake name.
Nope.
Jessica, well,
kind of Power Man, but he doesn't. He never.
Nobody really uses that.
Yeah.
So, but Luke Cage uses his real name. Jessica Jones uses his real name. Daredevil and Iron Fist necessarily don't.
But Iron Fist only does because he doesn't really care about his name.
Yeah, it's more of a title.
Yeah.
So let's with Danny Rand, and the actor is called Finn Jones. Listen to our prior podcast on Iron Fist, and you will hear my feelings about that particular person. But let's break down his powers.
So if we want to go by, I'm gonna go more by the comic book with him, just because I love his power dynamic, but we never really get to see it in the series or the show. So everyone always knows the Iron Fist is the glowy hand, but basically it's a lot more than that. It's really, he has a complete and absolute control of chi, or basically the energy of life, the energy that created the universe. This can give him the ability of super strength, speed, and enhances all sense. Every actual part of his body, it can actually enhance to the highest level a being is capable of. So think about, if we really want to go by the comic books, think about what he can do with his hand, full body. That's where he eventually should get to, as well. That's
a small. What he can do with his hand is a small representation of his ultimate power.
Correct.
It's kind of like I think I likened this before to Phoenix. The Phoenixes, or what Xavier did of putting those mental blocks on Jean Grey. Her true potential is the Phoenix, and the Phoenix Unleashed, really. But she's still powerful as Jean Grey with those blocks on. And in essence, for Danny Rand, it's kind of similar.
Same thing.
Right now, he hasn't manifested his true powers, where she can be represented throughout his body. Right now, he only can harness it in one section.
We've seen from with this version of the Iron Fist, even in comic books, the maximum we may get one day, hopefully, is the double hand, where he can at least use the chi in both hands. He can force the chi out almost like a force push. He can use the force chi to heal himself as well as others. He can do it there's also a time period where he's able to reverse small aspects of time in a small area around him, which he's used to repair like structures and or himself. His chi controls the actual elements himself. So if he, bowls his hand with the chi and puts it in fire, he can now control fire himself. Same thing with water, same thing with earth, same thing with air. So this is the
element. Okay, the main element.
The main elements. This is the level that hopefully I wanted to see throughout the series, which I still get it. I think if this was like D-Ray said earlier, if this was a Daredevil situation where he had that time to develop at least more than one season of a show, we would have probably seen it in this episode, this series. But it is something I am actively looking forward to him really learning to control his true power of chi.
And just briefly, according to the series on Netflix, he achieved his powers by going through the several rings of Kung Lung to ultimately get to the point to face the dragon and punch that motherfucker in the heart.
Which is, I mean, when you think about it, it's really animal cruelty, because literally what you become, the training process of the Iron Fist, like I was talking about for Daredevil, is so rigorous that people die in the process. Mm-hmm. It's you have to be the best of the best of the best to even survive the process, because it's not, oh, we're just going to practice for 20 hours and then you sleep for 4. It's like, yo, we may go for weeks, months. Some of them, like, he went through years of super intense training where even when you're sleeping, you're doing some kind of training, like sleeping on 2 fingers, or, you know, sleeping underneath a waterfall, where every aspect of your life is extreme training, because to be the immortal weapon, which is what he's so proud of telling everybody and anybody, I am the Iron Fist. A immortal weapon, just to let you know, quick little thing about it, is a weapon that is created out of a mortal person to make the ultimate being of weaponry, where if it has a sword, it can kill you. If it has a finger, it can kill you. Anything, it being alive itself is the weapon. That's what Danny Rand, or the Iron Fist, is one of the strongest immortal weapons. And as we've seen in Defenders, which we'll talk about later, is he's not the only immortal weapon. And if you ever, when we talk about Stick once again, they were trying to get Daredevil to the level of immortal weapon, but to do that, you have to cast certain emotions aside if you don't get like superpowers like the chi or coming back to life. You have to cast every tie, every person you care about, and don't care if they live or die, because you have to be a weapon. A weapon doesn't think about what it kills, it just kills. A weapon
does what the master tells it to do.
Yep.
Which is a very running theme in all of these superhero shows. It's easy to say for Danny, the major villain in this is the Hand.
Yeah,
the Hand.
That's his life.
Yeah, that's the reason. That's the whole point of the Iron Fist, is to stop the Hand. So we don't need to really go into more detail to me about that. The last scene that you remember from Iron Fist, from what I remember, the last scene was him and Colleen seeing Kung Lung fucked up. Yeah, basically. Well, not even. I won't fucked up is an understatement. That shit's done.
Gone. So, but you also forgot another major part that I remember us talking about. Remember a little bit after that, when it was his partner, Danny Rand's partner that he trained with, sitting down with Gao. Yeah, that's right. And then we saw the reporter chick listening.
That's right. I did forget about that part.
And they never alluded to none of that. So I think that's going to be back when we go back to the Iron Fist saga, because we did see a lot of Gao, but we are, without no spoilers, certain things going on with Gao that we don't know yet. Yeah. So we don't know how that's going to happen, but we do know for a fact he's still alive.
So now that we've kind of wrapped up all of the components that make up the Defenders, we know, again, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Daredevil, and Iron Fist compose the Defenders. So let's now understand the connection between these characters, because some of those connections, again, since all of them had prior seasons, some of those connections were already established, such as, let's say, with Luke Cage, for instance. We'll stick with the same order that we had breaking down the characters. Let's say Luke Cage. He had connections to Jessica Jones.
Yep.
And Claire.
Yeah. Those are the only two.
That's the only two that, and those two had connections to others, which is going to be a connection web. Day. Yeah, connection web going across. But let's start with those two. Luke Cage and Jessica Jones' relationship that we've seen in this series, and then let's also talk about what we know in the comic book lore. Briefly, quickly, in the series, what occurred was basically Luke Cage, Jessica Jones hooked up. They had a little thing going.
Yeah.
He got mad.
Wow.
Exactly. He got mad that she knew more about his was Sheba? Was it Sheba? Shira?
About his ex-partner wife chick, yeah. I don't
so
remember
was that his wife, or was I don't remember.
They always alluded to they were together, so let's not say wife, we'll say significant other.
His significant other, who was killed by Kilgrave or in association with Kilgrave. Again, don't kill me on the details. That was a long time ago when I saw it, and I haven't revisited that much. But anyways, so they were together. So him and this girl were together. She was killed. Jessica Jones knew about it, or how she was killed, and more details about it, and she didn't let Luke know about it, and that was really something that was haunting him for a long time. So that kind of,
because he blamed himself.
that kind of burned the bridges between him and Jessica, and that's why they kind of separated. So that's their connection. Now, can you go into more detail about what happened, comic book lore of between him and Jessica?
One of the things I thought Netflix did well was the
sexual tension that they had?
The tension you saw through all three of the individual series, because Jessica Jones came up in his, he came up in hers, as you know, he was a big staple, but they always had that we shouldn't be together, but I love you connection, where you saw the minute they met in the show, they kind of had that look like, oh shit, it's you. You know, when you see your ex, but you never wanted her to be an ex, but she had to be. That was that look they gave, and I think the actor and the actress played it so well. Was it's kind of like, I'm gonna play cool though.
Yeah,
I'm gonna play cool though.
I want to touch on that real quick. Is for me, that is something that I did pick on too. I thought that was great chemistry between the actors, between Luke Cage and Jessica Jones, or Michael Coulter and Kristen Ritter. That they did have great connection, and it did give what you're alluding to is of some sexual tension, some that, you know, like, I still care for you, even though we had the last interaction that we had was very volatile. That I still have love for you and I still care about you. And to me, it's more of I think what bonds them is they both have a complete understanding of each other.
They let each other do their own thing, and I love that.
He knows how she is, and he's fine with that. He's not trying to change her. She is what she is, and he appreciates it. And the same thing with her. She knows at the end of the day, Luke Cage, he's going to do. As Claire said later in the series of Defenders, again, this is going to be filled with spoilers, so it is what it is. But Claire was saying that basically, he's a good dude. He's a good dude, and he's always going to be a good dude, and he's always going to do what's right, regardless of how it's going to affect him.
Yep. I mean, think about it. In this series, the minute he got out, the first thing he did was go try to help people. Yeah. And the part that it made it to me even a bigger connection to the Jessica Jones is even by the end of the actual Defenders, you still saw that if she would have told him anything along the lines of let's run away together, not only would he truly consider leaving Claire, he loves Claire. Claire is his heart. But Jessica Jones is that one, you know.
She has a connection that Claire will never understand, because Jessica knows what it's like to have powers and to live in that world of a superhero. Like, you don't know what it's like until you're there. Yep. There's certain things, and this is to me kind of akin to a conversation, and I'm not going to go into long detail about this. We might have another podcast about it, but about something that black men will say about dating black women. Is I need to date a black woman because she truly understands my experience where a non-black woman doesn't. And then there's black men that say, yeah, that's true, but it's also true I can work with the other with somebody that doesn't truly understand my experience. So I just thought that was an interesting dynamic as well, between that, because a lot of things in the Defenders that I noticed had racial undertones in it. Some of the ones we alluded to earlier with the conversation with Luke Cage and Danny Rand, which we'll go into more detail later, had racial undertones about white privilege and growing up in poverty, which again we'll get into more detail. But the thing I wanted to go into, if we want a little bit with the racial as well as the relationship, is they get married. In the comic books, they get married. That's what I wanted you to talk about too. Yeah, they have kids, and you got to think about that. You're two outspoken superhero, one black, one white, in a world that is still racially sensitive, and in a world that's mutant or power sensitive. So their child, as well as their relationship, was never going to be at a point where it was all peaches and roses. And I think that's what the show even captured, where it's like, I love you, you love me. We probably will be together, but it's going to be a long road ahead, and it's going to be rocky. It's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. And they show that through every scene of them being together, that we know y'all going to be together, but it's going to be a crap way to get there. Yeah, and that's what I will say. One thing, and again, later we're going to get into more our overall feelings and likes and dislikes about the Defender series, but that is something that I did like, is the connection between Luke and Jessica. I felt like they captured it very well. Like we said, the sexual tension was there, the concern, the care, but also being an adult is like, yeah, we have these feelings, but at the end of the day, I'm with Claire. I know I'm with Claire. I'm not going to cross that line, go down that road because I respect the relationship that I have. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean that I don't have these feelings.
Can't make them go away.
Exactly. Let's touch on some other relationships as well. Let's stick with Luke right now and go with Luke and Claire relationship. That was developed in Luke Cage's series when she went to Harlem and helped in that situation. And that also brings into another connection of Misty. Now, thinking about it this way, Luke
beyond belief.
He was with Jessica, he was with Claire, and he was with
he got Misty. He got all three.
So it's like
he goes through
and
them.
all of them are cool. Like all of them, like they talking to each other.
He has a guy's like dream. Like I smashed you and all your friends, and we all still cool. Like nothing ever happened.
And nobody mad at me about it.
Nobody mad. So, everyone just sees I'm a good guy. Oh. And I've been waiting for you to bring this up. I am so glad you finally brought Misty Knight in movie to the Luke Cage because I've been waiting to talk about this. So there's going to be a major spoiler. If you haven't seen it, you're screwed now. But
I already know where you're going to.
So I was waiting the whole entire series when Defenders because, Misty gets her arm chopped off in the comic books. And I've been waiting. I was like, the whole series, like, who's going to cut it off? Who's going to cut off? And at the end, when we got to see...
What was it, Bushido?
Bakudo,
yeah.
When Bakudo cut it off, I was like, it was kind of bittersweet because I was super happy. But I was like, oh, shit, my girl got her arm cut off.
I'm going to say this. Just, again, we're going to go into more detail about this overall series. But when I was watching that part, I was like, even before that, I was like, oh, I think it was episode 7. Episode 7 is when I was like, oh, yeah, she about to lose them arms.
Yep.
And I need you to correct me. I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but I thought it was both of her arms that got removed, and it was that she got like metal. It's just one.
No, it's just one. Okay. It's always been her right.
Yeah, I thought it was both, and so that's my fault because I was like, I was like, oh, they're gonna change it a little bit. Okay.
No, yeah, because I was waiting because like the whole time because if you don't know, for those of you who don't know, in the comic book herself, Misty Knight gets her arm cut off, and then she gets a dope ass cybernetic arm. Think of like a Cable-esque arm, just not silver. Like it was kind of brownish in the comic because she a black girl. They want to keep her skin color. You feel me? So thank you, by the way. And she didn't join their team. She started her own little team called the Fearless Defenders. It was her and this other chick, and they did their own side thing. So it kind of is potential where they may
I was about to ask,
they add that. You know what I'm saying?
I wonder if they are, or if they're going to keep her. That would be kind of cool. Of
a cop detective / because she becomes a private eye where she doesn't join Jessica Jones. She never even works with Jessica Jones again, but at least in the comic books. So I would love if they really did a private thing with her because she has a cool little cop / superpower mix.
And what I'll say is actually, if I was writing that, again, I didn't know about that part, but if I was on Netflix and I just found that information and we're like, oh, well, we already have this set up. What I would do is do a detective show, literally just straight detective show. Where she happens to have
a bionic arm, living with power people though.
But in a world where there are power people and there are situations, but more on the aspect of like a detective crime drama. Like if you write it as a detective crime drama and the auxiliary parts is these added things that we just mentioned. That's how I would see it.
One show, Oli's and
I
can't think of the name.
Rizzoli and Isle or something like that.
That one right there. Something like that.
Something like that, but
with a little Marvel.
With a little Marvel and a little bit darker. Because I've never seen that show, preface, but what the previews and commercials that I've seen of it has lighter points. In my mind, what I'm seeing in this is more like
real life,
more like True Detectives on HBO. Really dark, really gritty, really grimy, really real in that aspect, but with those auxiliary parts. Let's go back to the connections real quick and go with now let's move on. We did Luke Cage's connections to most of the people. We did Misty, Claire, and Jessica. Let's do his Jessica Jones connection. So we already talked about her connection to Luke. We don't need to really touch into that, but let's talk about her connection to Daredevil and Claire.
I did like that. I was kind of wondering how they were throughout the series when I was watching it because everybody, by the time they met, it was by around episode 6. And I was wondering how they were going to get that group connection. And I loved how Jessica Jones in trouble, her guardian, because that's who I call the lady that always looks after her friend, her calming down, whatever. Yeah. And automatically went to Foggy. Doesn't know that Foggy already sent all his stuff to Daredevil. They thinking that she's just a regular, typical, no special chick. But then Foggy looks into it. So it gets his connection to Daredevil. Foggy looks into, this chick got some pals. Maybe Daredevil would like this. Oh, wait, my bad. Not Daredevil. Because this is when he wasn't trying to be Daredevil. Matt Murdock. Give him something to be busy by, not knowing, you were the beginning of making him going back to Daredevil. And he even says that later on when he thought he was dead, which was awesome.
Yeah.
But he's like, I'm the one that literally gave it to him. Yeah.
He's that survivor's guilt of, I set this in motion. Bruh, he would have did that shit anyways.
Yeah, because
like, you made it accessible in a way that gave him the best chance of success.
But I want everybody to think about, everyone thinks like, why can't, a little tangent real quick, but why can't Daredevil not fight crime? Is it because he has a sense of justice? No, think about this, bro. If at all times for 2 to 3 miles around you, you can hear all the bad shit that's going on in a city full of bad shit.
It can make you cynical.
Yeah, it's either going to make you hate and want to destroy everything, or it makes you want to get off your ass. There is no middle ground because he can't turn off his powers.
Well, if there is a middle ground, then to me that speaks to you as a person, because that means you're so insensitive that you don't give a damn that people are suffering.
Yep.
And knowing that you can do something about it.
Yep.
So like
he kind of has to. And then, so with his connection back to Jessica Jones when they first met, is he was being her lawyer. He was once again throwing out his olive branch of, I'm going to help you for pro bono. I got your back. Even though Jessica Jones is Jessica Jones, she's going to say, fuck you.
Yeah, she's standoffish. She
don't trust you.
Yeah, she don't trust you. She's self-reliant. And some of that is residuals of Kilgrave. Not
100%.
Yeah, if somebody can control and make you do things you don't want to do, you're going to have trust issues.
Yep.
That's plain and simple. And that is some of the issues and some of the issues that she has with Luke Cage. It's her trust issues, his trust issues, and them combining and having that.
A major. And one of the parts I like with the Jessica Jones part is so there's this part that I thought was really dope that showed kind of Jessica Jones' flying ability, because I don't think everybody really got it. But I'll give it to you. There was a part where, they were talking. He was trying to give her legal advice. She was like, I don't need it. She was like, I'm just going to leave. She leaves. He does his, stealthy ninja thing, and she notices that he's following. Mm-hmm. She doesn't know exactly how a blind dude is following her, but she knows he is. So there's a part where he's listening to her footsteps, and then all of a sudden her footsteps disappear. If y'all really look at that, because the only way that they just randomly disappear without a big jump or something like that, if you're not touching the floor, it shows that she quickly went up, and she stayed up long enough where she came down gently when no one saw, or
he can hear.
Or he could hear.
And then by that time,
you can't do that by a jump.
By that time, he couldn't distinguish her footprints against everybody else's because he lost it by that time.
Exactly.
And that is a good point. I never thought about it that way, because I wondered the same thing. I was like, well, how the fuck did he not hear her? Like something. What was that something? Mm-hmm. Whatever that is that caused him to not hear the footprints anymore, and then or
even
back.
The heartbeat, because remember, he can hear heartbeats and movements, so you had to move quickly in a place where he wouldn't expect to listen.
Exactly. He's not expecting to listen all the way up there. He's looking ground level. Yeah, so that makes sense.
But then also the reverse of where he thought he was getting away, and he took off up the stairwells and up the things, and she was like, "Dad is not a fucking blind person."
Yeah. So
she instantly had that. They both got each other where they. There's something not.
We don't know the full story,
but there's something wrong.
Something wrong. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I do want to touch on the Jessica Jones, Matthew Murdock, Daredevil connection. One thing that stood out to me, or one scene that stuck out to me, was towards the end when it was just her and Daredevil basically doing police work, reconnaissance, trying to get more information of what to do next. And when they were having those conversations, there was tension. It's not sexual tension like you were getting with Luke Cage. And to me, that again highlighted their relationship, but it also highlighted the actors' performances.
Yes.
You only can pick up on those nuances and those subtle emotions when you have a good actor and a good actress, or good actors in a collection surrounded, because that's how you build that chemistry. We saw the chemistry with Luke Cage and Jessica Jones.
Without a doubt.
We also saw the connection, or at least I did, with Daredevil and Jessica when they're having that conversation. And it was playful, funny, joking. She's blunt. She's like, she's just really blunt and forward. And he's more tactical in how he's saying and what he's saying. Because, I'm not stereotyping lawyers, but this character, he's a lawyer, and he exhibits those qualities of being very
standoffish. I got to keep some things away from you
standoffish,
because you don't need to know
not just standoffish, but very meticulous in his word choices. Where Jessica Jones, there is no filter. She says what she means and where Daredevil is literally, he's thinking it, and he's like, how would this best?
I say this best not to get it back on
not
me.
to get offended, not to whatever your qualms are, to get over that. And I thought that was a well established. I thought that was a really good scene where they were just sitting.
Yep.
I thought that was a real good scene. I felt those connections between those three actors were really well done to me.
I love since we are kind of going into this. I don't mind. I hope you don't mind if we transition, because I wanted to say a part with the Daredevil / the Luke Cage when they met that first time. Because I love that,
because this is all connections. So we're just trying to breach these connections.
Then both of these two sets of people, you got Iron Fist and you got Luke Cage in one room fighting. Then you got Jessica Jones, and all she knows really about this dude right now is he's a blind maybe ninja. What the hell, lawyer? And they just run up, and then all of a sudden the two teams meet, and each team's like, I know somebody from the other team.
Yeah.
And you can see Luke Cage kind of gave him that instant, like, I don't want to call it jealousy, but I want to give him like that I need to defend her. Why is he here? Who the fuck is he? And even when he tried to get information from him, when they went back to the little karate house between the
restaurant.
The restaurant, you saw that's tension.
There was tension,
still.
It was tension, and to me, I credit that tension to Luke Cage's trust issues, and again, that showcases the actor's abilities, because that scene would have been a lot different. Yeah. Let's say you just take out Jessica, right. and we're assuming that all of this is in real world situations.
Yeah.
Luke is not going to trust anybody in that room.
Nope.
Regardless, like, I don't care if the hand's coming after us or not. Fuck it, I'll figure it out on my own.
I don't know who you are.
Yeah, I'll figure it out on my own.
Yeah. And especially how Matt Murdock came, he basically was like, this is the time we're trying to separate his life. He's like, I'm not telling you my name.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
that's what I mean.
It's
like,
bad.
Yeah, like for somebody that has trust issues, and then you're in a situation where you need to trust the other person, and that other person isn't forthcoming with the information that they have or that they should give you, like, the least they should give you is who the fuck you are. And if I'm going to try to save your life and you're going to try to save mine, at the least I should know is who you are.
And they highlighted that so wonderful when they were just like, bro, you either take off the scarf, get beat down, take off the scarf, or leave.
Yeah, he was basically paid in full. Yeah. Nigga, either get down or lay down.
Yeah, like, because it was serious, because at this point, you know everything about us. Yeah. You know all of our names. You know, you've heard about our powers.
We ain't have no mask.
We can't even see you.
Yeah, you have you.
We
know,
thought you were blind, but you just
we don't know
ass.
if you know what our face looks like, but our face is exposed.
And so they had to get that trust. I thought that was so beautifully done, how the actors made sure it showed their trust being built with the first hand of many, you know what I'm saying? And it developed all the way to the end where you could see each other. They took the ideals of the other person to a point where it's like, yeah, you could be right. I never thought of it like this, or I didn't want to think about it like this, but what you're saying, because I know who you are, I have to trust it. And that shows you the development of the actors, the characters in the series of good writing, where we felt the development of trust in at least those parts.
Yeah. Well, I disagree about the writing to a certain extent, but we'll get into that in our overall conclusion. I just want to quickly wrap up the connections. So let's on the connections. Let's go with Danny Rand, Iron Fist connection. So out of all of them, to me, Danny Rand, Iron Fist had the least amount of connections to the others when it comes on a person to person. Like Luke Cage literally met Jessica prior. Yep. That's an established relationship. It's no, I'm meeting you for the first time. No, it's an established, or I know about you, but I don't know who you are. No, they had an established relationship before the Defenders. Jessica Jones and Daredevil, established relationship. It might have been cantankerous, but they met before.
Had that trust, yeah.
Exactly. So that's done. Iron Fist never met Jessica. Yep. Never met Luke. Yep. Never met Daredevil.
And when he met everybody,
the only connection is Claire for him to everybody else.
And for the reason why I can see how, and nobody, because if I was in their superhero realm, I couldn't have ever trusted him. Because the first time he met everybody was confrontational. Yeah. He met Luke Cage, and basically they took flight to where they started fighting. When they met the other two technicians all at one time, it was in the middle of basically kind of a major battle. Yeah. We're fighting for our lives, and I have to trust you because you're with somebody I know. And that's why I said, like, the most integral person to me in this meetup was Jessica Jones. Because if you just take Jessica Jones away, nobody would have got together. Iron Fist would have never got with Luke Cage. Luke Cage would have never got with Daredevil.
Yeah.
Daredevil would have never got with any of them. So it would have been a war between all of them together because they can't trust each other. Jessica Jones was integral.
They would have just. It wouldn't have been a war, bro. They would have been slaughtered. The Hand would have killed them all.
They would have killed them all.
Divide and conquer.
Divide and conquer. But it almost felt like you needed Iron Fist, but you really didn't.
I mean, he is integral into the story pivot point, but
because he's their goal.
Yeah.
But if we change their goal to like, I can make you the Iron Fist tomorrow, that whole person could be taken out and little would change the story.
I agree with that. Like I said, going back to real quick the connections, Iron Fist had the least connections. Claire was the connecting point for connecting them to. Claire knows Daredevil. She knows Jessica too because she helped with the shotgun wound.
She knew
she knew all four. She's the connection, as Colleen Wing said. Those two are kind of the foundations, and I agree with you. I think Jessica Jones is the foundation for them, and Claire is the connection point for them.
Yeah, because Claire, the thing that I thought multiple times when we were talking about connections is when she was with Colleen Wing, we kept on hearing the stop doubting yourself from both of them.
Yeah.
Like you're stronger than you think you are. You can go out there because you've saved their lives before. But then it wasn't completely a reciprocal situation because she believed in Colleen, but she still doubted her because she was the only one without powers at certain times.
Yeah,
but when it was vice versa,
in that elevator when they're coming up with the plan of, no, Colleen, you and me.
Right.
They can handle themselves.
Trust me, I need your back.
And she was right.
Yeah.
Because if Colleen wasn't there,
she would have been dead.
She would have been, a lot of shit would have been wrong.
Yeah. It shows you the dichotomy. I love the connections of even your sidekicks have a major part in the storyline because without both Colleen Wing, without, Misty Knight and Claire, none of this would have been possible.
Yeah.
Because they set up everything in all the background was like, yeah, we can't bust the wall down, but we can't make sure the cops don't come. We can't place the bombs. We can take down the dude I've already killed before.
Yeah. Now that we've kind of gone through a myriad of connections, let's get into what we thought about the show itself, the things we didn't like, the things we did like, and then after that, we'll go into what we predictions for the following. Just going off of that that's where I thought the writing was done well. Is because there were certain scenes that, like the Misty scene of her getting her arm cut off. There's definitely several ways where you could have wrote that scene where that doesn't happen or that it happens in various ways. But I felt like the way that they had those scenes like that structured, it felt like it wasn't added just to be added for, salaciousness,
theatrical purpose.
Yeah, theatrical purpose. It was pivotal to the storyline. It was the little lines of like, no, Colleen, I need you. They have powers, I don't. I need you. Then she goes down there, and then Misty comes in at the right time. Like, sometimes when you have those scenes in other movies, it's like, come on. Like, for real, this motherfucker at the exact fucking moment. But it felt in this show, it felt right. It felt like
it was an easy transition.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not surprised. Like, that makes sense.
Yeah, because let's say in the Misty thing with her hand getting cut off, right? I would say I can see that scene being written the same way, right? Misty comes in, she does that. And she saves the day. She doesn't get her arm cut off, and that's why they have her come in there is to save someone's life. And there's like no consequences. But in real life, even if you make a good decision, there's gonna be a consequence. And I like how it seemed like they had those points.
And they kept that frailty of humans, of where nobody, not even Iron Fist was immortal, not even Luke Cage was immortal, not even Jessica
his jaw
Jones
getting hurt.
They all got jacked up. I mean, like you said, when he got punched that first time, he almost lost some teeth. He's like,
what the fuck just
happened
here?
Shoot, the whole time fighting the Hand, we saw that
Madame Gao
was like, I don't care if you can fight.
That concussion force that she hit that affected Luke Cage too. Like that's what I'm saying.
Nothing.
They thought about it, and that is where I had an appreciation.
And the thing I loved about that is the Madame Gao power. They made sure that was always intricate. We weren't like, oh my God, she has this. We saw that in every time she showed up where Madame Gao just not some old chick. She's some old chick that can still whoop your ass. But that's a storyline I like for the Hand.
But she whoops your ass in her way. In a way that would make sense. Now, if she was fucking doing
backflips.
Backflips or Harley Quinn, like the elevator scene where she's flipping over, like doing that shit.
No.
I'd have been like, oh, come on, my nigga.
Yeah.
But the fact they gave her something that, okay, she's walking with a cane all the time. She seems like she's fragile, but she got something for you.
Yeah.
With that power, I thought that was well done.
I love the integration of the 5 fingers of the hand.
Yeah, I thought that was very important.
Most people don't know that. They think the hand is just like a symbolic name, but they call the hand because there's 5 original members that were from, and they brought it back to the Kung Lung. So that's why I liked, but I didn't like at the same time how integral Danny Rand of the Iron Fist was, because in the hand society, he is their ultimate weapon at sometimes and their ultimate destroyer. So like they brought the hand back to the fist. So it's always who could win against who. And it was just, I love how they even showcased the diversity of the hand, which was something I was kind of worried about. We only saw Gal or think it was always going to be Asians. Yeah,
white,
Asians and whites.
White lady, Alexandra.
We got
the black guy. I can't remember his name. Solomon. Something
like that. So it was nice.
Why the black guy got to get killed? Side note.
And everybody has to die.
And the motherfucker got decapitated though. But the white lady died too. So man. But one of the things that I wanted to say is, I will say this: I did like the show overall. I thought it was a well done show, and we'll get into where we would rank it against Daredevil, Luke Cage, and all that a little bit later towards the very end. But what I will say is this: I thought the writing or the story development was right. And that's what I was talking about, those scenes of incorporating Misty getting her hand cut off and sticking to the comic lore, I thought was relatively good. The issue that I had with is the sophistication and of the dialogue. I just felt on Daredevil season 1 and 2, Jessica Jones and Luke Cage, I'm taking Iron Fist out of it because I didn't like Iron Fist as a whole, and it is part of the actors. I just didn't feel like this writing, dialogue-wise, wasn't as sophisticated and as elevated as prior ones. I felt they kind of dumbed this down.
I'll say something that you said in a prior podcast is you have to write for the people that can act, and
that's what I was going to, exactly. And that's
if you saw remember any situation or any scene that didn't involve Iron Fist again, he did his thing. It is over. But
I'm sorry, bro.
I did not enjoy him as an actor because anytime he wasn't in it, you saw
it was so good.
It hit you. But when he went
in Jessica Jones Daredevil scene we were talking about, the Luke Cage Jessica Jones,
it was great.
The Luke Cage Claire scene we were talking about, the Misty scene,
the Luke Cage and Iron Fist, it didn't feel real. The conversation when they first met, it just felt stale. It didn't go together. I don't know if it just didn't feel right, and I couldn't get on it. The only time I liked to see him in the show was when he was fighting. If he wasn't fighting, I was a little bit annoyed at his presence because, I have to take one part back. So there was one part that really pissed me off that made no sense, and I blame it on the acting / the writing. Is when they were fighting at the end. He was fighting the Black Sky, or AKA Elektra, in the room, and she already said that you are the key. You are the only thing that could break this one fucking wall. And she pointed out, made sure it's the wall with the fucking writing. And then, yes, you lost. You were losing. I get you. You want to use the magical hand because it'll help you win the fight. But come on now. If you are supposed to be the ultimate weapon, the immortal weapon, the best fighter in the world made by the Kung Lung, how would you not see I'm punching towards the wall with my magical fist and the only thing can do? That was stupid to me. Yeah, that was horrible.
No, I agree with you. That is a scene that I was, sometimes in movies, you know they do it because they couldn't figure any other way to get it there. And that's how it felt. Like, instead of, to me, like, the great shows will give you things that make sense. And like I said, the things that make these shows and these movies so great is they create this world and things in it make sense in that world. That's the problem that I had with Iron Fist, is his acting ability did not give me the range that I needed to make it real, make it feel real. And it's the same thing here. His acting ability, again, it does change the dynamics. He doesn't, his acting is more frustrating than it is, I don't feel sympathy for him, and I should be. I should be. This man is going through a lot of shit.
Yeah, he's been
tortured. He lost all his people that he's been tortured since a kid, one. His family's been killed. Yeah. He's been fighting all his life. He gets these great powers. He finally finds somebody he likes. Everybody he knows back home that he was supposed, like, all this shit is going on, and you should feel sorry for this dude. And I'm like, man, fucking just kill this motherfucker. The rest of y'all save New York. Luke Cage, Daredevil, Jessica, y'all figure it out. Fuck. Kick Iron Fist out and add Elektra. Yeah. Bring her on the team. So that's that. I definitely agree with you on that. One of the things so that's why I said like the dialogue, it just didn't feel
only for him though.
Yeah. But he's so pivotal to the story that it affected. And remember, because we talked about it on the Iron Fist one, and that was one of my fears, is that the scenes with him are there going to be enough scenes with him that's going to bring the whole production down? And that's what I felt. Because everybody, literally, every single person else, I can't even think of anybody else where I was like, yeah, I can't fuck with you. You know what I'm saying? He was the only one, and I don't want to pick on him.
I did want to touch on one thing because I thought she was the other pivotal piece, and I loved her side of the coin. The Black Sky, Elektra, the actress, was once again, I was so glad when they brought her back because I loved her when we saw her in the Daredevil series, where I was wondering what she's going to be a major part. And the minute I heard them say Black Sky, it hit me. I was like, yes, she's coming back. And I love the whole concept of a blank slate. She didn't know who she was because that's what we've seen as the Black Sky, or the concept of Elektra, where she's supposed to be this ultra godlike fighter, which we saw without a doubt that no one can control. And I think the actress portrayed it where in the beginning she was super lost and confused, but by the end, she had that like look of death in her soul, where you even saw where she was kind of going back towards Elektra. Because the thing that I thought was another major point that people didn't notice was when she first started training, she got the single sword that turned into a double sword, which wasn't her iconic weapon. It was similar in size and shape, but different. Yeah, and that's why she got so excited, because she was like, she didn't pick the size, because if you saw, they were up there. Yeah, because they referenced it until later. And what I will say is the thing that I think Alexandra, who was played by Sigourney Weaver, I think she did a good job as well, and Elektra, which is Elodie, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, Jung. Awesome. I think she did a very good job as well. The thing that I felt like Alexandra should have picked up on, and again, maybe it was just the way that it was shot and that we got privy to this look that Elektra gave is, and again, that goes back to acting. When she walked by those sides, you, as a watcher, as an observer, I was like, oh, she wants it. Mm-hmm. She ain't say no motherfucking words. All she did was give. All she did was a look of longing, a look of what like, is that? This, like, I know those.
Yeah, this belongs. Like, I feel like this belongs. It's calling to me. It's a part of me. No words being said, but you already saw that connection, and to me, instantly, that's good acting.
Yeah.
So,
and with that, I like, you just made me think about another scene with Alexandria that I thought was. It touched me. If y'all didn't know, I used to be in a band. I was a little bit of a band geek back in the day, and when we got to see our first introduction to her, and she's sitting there listening to the string orchestra, and
in that intimate setting,
in that intimate setting, you saw a lot of things. It instantly gave you a lot of things about her. You know that she's an appreciation of music. One, she has an extensive history and knowledge of beyond a typical person understanding of music, and a typical person doesn't know why.
Very cultured.
And
so cultured that it's like
it's airy.
Yeah, it's airy, and it's so cultured that it's impossible for you to be that cultured in one lifetime.
Yeah, and like we saw another one of that. That again, it goes back to acting when she said what she called Chernobyl or
that country that
the country
that
he's
renamed.
Like, he's like, yeah, it hasn't been that for centuries, and she kind of gave off that where you can tell that she's been there. I love that. And when they integrated that to all five hands, where all five fingers, my bad, where from the hand were there, where it was like, we've been here since Machu Picchu, we've been here since we've always been here. We've seen it all. We've seen it all. Like, I remember when Guy was talking about, she remembers seeing technically there were dragons in her homeland. So you're thinking this is hundreds of thousands of years ago, where they've been living off technically the bones of other dragons, as we learned was their serum to keep them alive, which is, and each actor pulled that off of, I've seen this 1,000 lifetimes. Yeah. It ain't nothing. Yeah. Especially like, I even love when the black guy got caught, where he still had the arrogance of, I've been caught 1,000 times. Even the other fingers were like, he's been caught before.
He'll be fine. We'll see him.
Cool.
Yeah, we'll see him in a few.
But they didn't have that new age concept with that old age belief, so it was a great story-driven concept. Just, once again, the one that always killed me is every time I think about it, Iron Fist is always there. He's always there.
Yeah. So again, overall, I thought it was a good show. I thought it was a good series. I thought the dialogue could have been better. I thought it could have been a little bit more sophisticated. I don't know if they got new writers or whatever, but whoever they had on Daredevil, Luke Cage, and Jessica Jones, hire them motherfuckers back. Get them back. If it wasn't broken, if it's not broke, don't fix it. So they need to go back to that, for my opinion. And at this point, to be honest, I don't know how you fix the Danny Rand. I don't
think they can.
I don't know how. I guess the only thing I could say, the only solution I can is, because I hate giving problems without giving solutions. The only solution that I can think of is not necessarily writing him out, but writing him, making his role less, or his dialogue being less pivotal. You got to keep him in because he is pivotal to the overall theme of the story. But
well, technically, if they really wanted to, they can kill off that Iron Fist and have Kung Lao come back, and then because since Iron Fist is a title, when one Iron Fist dies, the heart of the magic goes back into the dragon, and then someone else could be chosen. So technically, he isn't the only Iron Fist ever to exist in this universe either.
Okay, then this is what I'm going to quickly write. This is what I say: kill that motherfucker off. Kill him off in a way where it's devastating to Colleen Wing. Colleen Wing becomes the next Iron Fist.
That would be inventive.
That shit would be dope to me. Kill him off, and she's so hell bent on getting revenge and
she becomes an Iron Fist.
and justifying his death that she goes through the process, and she's already a knowledgeable enough fighter that it would make it believable that she can get through the rings. And that with the added drive and determination of Danny Rand being killed, that gives her the added force and the added momentum to push her to complete the entire process.
In theory, it sounds wonderful. Think that would be better. I would actually like that, but but it wouldn't work because people are already so upset. They've already changed Thor into a woman. They've had Spider-Man turn into a woman. Right now, if they did do Iron Fist turn into a woman, especially since Kung Lao,
I don't give a fuck if it's a man or a woman. All I care about is that
somebody else
that is played. No, I don't. Not even if it's somebody else. If he can elevate his acting abilities to the level at which his counterparts are,
I don't think he can at this point. We've already seen 2 seasons.
I mean, I already stated that. That from the first one.
You did. You said it back in when we did his review.
That's what I'm saying. So I don't. For me, kill that motherfucker off. But anyways, I do want to quickly go over the one scene with Luke Cage and Danny. And I'm not going to harp on his acting abilities. You know how I feel about that. But I thought that scene was important, and I'm glad that they kept it in there. I'm glad that they shot it the way they did. Again, I just wish that there was a better actor to convey these feelings and emotions. But the reason why I wanted to bring it up, because I thought it was pivotal in addressing white privilege. Yeah. They addressed it without saying white privilege. They did say privilege, but they didn't say white privilege. And to me, I thought that was important because I'm hoping that people that don't see race as a big issue as maybe I do or you do, or people that are affected by being oppressed, feel that the oppressors, people that are in the position of white privilege, that they internalize it differently than they would have presented in another way. Because I felt like they pointed out all those points that were not, because Luke Cage isn't necessarily saying, yo, you're a fucked up person. What he's saying is, you're in a position, if you are a fucked up person, if you're just going to go around judging basically people without taking into account the full story, the full context of why they're doing what they're doing. As he stated with the boy that got eventually got killed in jail, but got arrested, he's like he said, he's trying to feed his family. Yep. He's trying to make a way. Does that mean that he should be killed because he's trying to make a way for his family? If you were in his position, would you do anything different? And if you wouldn't, then you have to readjust how you're going to treat or act towards that person.
And it was so powerful coming from Luke Cage.
Exactly. Who is a person has power.
That literally was on the ground. And he said, I love one thing he said.
He has power, but still feels powerless.
Feels so powerless. But he basically, one of the parts he said I thought was dope was, why are you out here fighting street level thugs when you have so much privilege and power to do so much more? And it shows you where something that I've learned through a lot of people with privilege is, it's hard to recognize you have privilege when you have it because you don't know what that privilege is. Yeah. And I think that was one of the moments where he realized, like, yeah, I do have this Iron Fist, but yo, I'm a billionaire. I've never struggled for money because I'm a billionaire. And he hit him home when he was like, yo, these kids ain't got no money to feed. He's just trying to survive. Yeah. You find these thugs, you're willing to kill a thug. He's just trying to survive. And But you're not willing to do that to the higher ups
because you're and that again goes to the fact of thinking outside of yourself. Danny is thinking outside of himself because he's upset of his people, the people in Kung Lung being killed, but he's also being selfish because this is what I'll say is that same situation. If your driving motivation is to get revenge, to kill or to take down the people that killed your family, that's one aspect. That could be one motivation. Or your other motivation is I'm feeling guilty because I didn't do what I was supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And that's two different things.
A dichotomy of the two.
Yeah, but the end result is going to approximately be the same. Mm-hmm. But if your intentions are different, it's going to affect you differently. Because if your intention is, I need to get back those who did me wrong in Kung Lao and release my guilt for not doing my job, versus, yeah, I did all that, but the ultimate goal is doing what's right.
Yeah.
The hand is not what's right.
In no capacity.
And so if my goal is just to take down the hand and not to get revenge, feed my guilt, you're not gonna go beat up an 18-year-old boy who's working for somebody, where you would question him all day. This motherfucker don't know shit.
And
he only knows surface level things. You know more about the hand than the kid you're about to beat up does.
Yeah. And the thing I'll say about that is you saw the development of all three other characters in not just physical, but actual and mentally. Like, I mean, we had Jessica Jones go from I'm solo dolo, fuck everybody, to the point where, I realize I need people. You had Luke Cage stick with his iconic, I'm going to help everybody, but once again, I'm going to do this solo. I never will need a team to, I can have other people help me because I help more. Yeah, then you also had Daredevil get from, I'm basically conflicted. I don't know what to do. I'm in between both worlds to the point where he's like, this is not both worlds. This is my world. Yeah, both sides. It's both sides of the same coin. And
acceptance.
You've seen the acceptance when he said it to Foggy. And he said it to I forgot her name now, but
the other girl,
Karen or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's Karen.
And this is me. And then he went down and he fought. We quote unquote we thought maybe died with Elektra because he was being who he was, saving who he was. But then when we go to Iron Fist, from the beginning he was kind of a little whiny bitch, and at the end he was a whiny bitch. And that's sad because that development in the character could have been there somehow.
And that's what I wanted to touch on too is that was a perfect example is we saw the emotional growth of everybody. And again, we already saw their emotional growth in their own series. Yep. And we still seeing the evolution and the growth in those characters. Again, that speaks to the level of acting. Daredevil analogy that you just stated about, he was uncertain of, which life he wants to lead, which life, who technically, it's basically an identity crisis. Yeah. Who am I? Am I a lawyer that saves people through the law? Or am I a quote unquote vigilante that saves a lot of people from very dangerous people? Mm-hmm. And that acceptance. But you saw that change and growth. And even from the beginning of the episode where he's like, no, I'm strictly Matthew Murdock. Only. Even though you already you still saw the internal conflict because the conversation that he had with Karen, he's already having that conflict. You can tell when she's basically like, you're done. In his head, he's like, yeah, I missed this shit.
Yep. I mean, when we saw him on the rooftops, like you kind of, he was already in the Daredevil pose, and he was like, you can see him like, I don't want to listen, but I have to listen. I don't want to listen, but I have to listen. Oh crap, I hear it going down. I hear it going down.
Yeah, I can't turn it off. And quickly, I just want to say, that last part with him fighting Elektra.
Right.
Before he does that, he already made the determination, I'm going to die down here with Elektra. Yep. If I can't get her out, we're die together. Yep. What does he tell Danny Rand before he leaves? Protect my city. Like this motherfucker's thinking about
10 steps ahead.
10 steps ahead, outside of himself. Like, yes, I'm gonna be selfish right now. I'm gonna try to save this woman that I love. Yeah. Because if I go up there, I'm not gonna be no good to y'all anyways. Yep. Because the whole time I'm gonna be
thinking about her,
killing myself inside, thinking about what I should have did, what I could have did, how all this stuff. But I'm passing that on to y'all. And if he didn't think. Again, and that shows why they need each other. Because if he didn't have Luke, he didn't have Danny, he didn't have Jessica Jones.
City's screwed.
He's not making that decision. He's not making that decision because his city outweighed his feelings.
His personal decision.
The only reason why he said, and again, this is my interpretation, the only reason why he determined that he's going to die with Elektra or try to do that is because he felt he had trust. The city he put the city in their hands and he trusted them. Yeah. Trusted these new people that he met. Is there anything else you want to say in regards to this series before we get into our prediction portion?
I will say, like I said before, I love the show. I know I had some criticisms, but the action was dope. They had consistent action, made sure that every episode someone got kicked in the face. So I thought that was dope. The storyline development was good. I even loved the connection of they made it the hand as a predominantly way of making them come together. So I think all in all, the show had great dynamic elements. Storyline, character development, and just like any other show, it needs some tweaks. And it had a lot of Easter eggs that, if you watch again, you can see them. So I think overall, it was a solid 8 out of 9. You know what I'm saying? I really would watch it again. I'm going to watch it a couple more times. So I enjoyed it very much, though.
For me, I would agree with you. I think overall it was very well done. I did agree with you. The story developed and evolved very well. 90% of the acting was very well done. Again, I do think dialogue and script writing, I think it could be elevated to what we've seen in previous seasons, and I'm hoping that moving forward that they'll kind of get back to that. Part of that, I think, is, again, just a lot of components into this. And again, I do want to give Netflix and the directors and the writers, it's hard to create a show where there's really 4 leads and balancing the screen time that these 4 major leads get and tying it together, as well as having all these ancillary characters, Misty, Claire, Colleen, the other members of the hand that aren't as prominent like Bushido or Bakudo. That's a lot of moving pieces that you're trying to balance. So I do understand that, and I think they did a very well job composing that. So what do you think moving forward? What do you think will be for season 2?
See, the thing I like about how they ended it almost with the concept of, let's say it didn't work, we don't have to do it again because they all went their separate ways. Mm-hmm. But
that was smart.
So that was smart just in case, but I think it's going to have enough fan base where they're going to have, see, to me, they didn't, maybe I missed it. So again, if someone else saw it, let me know because I would love to hear it. But I don't feel they alluded to any new particular bad guy unless we can continue with the hand, which I felt like they won't just because.
It seems like the hand's been disassembled.
And we always get that, and then you get somebody's gonna rise. They're gonna rise. Gal's not dead.
2 of the 3 hands or 2 of the 3 fingers of the hand are gone.
And you can
are literally killed,
just like Black Sky tried to do.
But if you replace them, you're replacing them with
a whole new organization, basically. Not
just that, but the thing that was instrumental in the hand's ability is that they were basically all there from the beginning. Mm-hmm. So they seen all these things and they have all this knowledge and culture, the things that we're saying that you can't obtain in a lifetime.
That's what I'm saying.
All that information. And that's what allowed them to have the connections, the power, the influence.
But they did say
when you kill 2 of those people and you have 3.
But I do, if you do remember, like the Asian dude said, I can't remember his name right now. If you cut off several fingers of a hand, the hand is still functioning.
Yeah, no. Now, I agree with that. I think that the hand will be still functional, but I don't think it's going to be at the capacity that it was. Now, what I think that they can do and that they will do is start incorporating more of the villains or henchmen of, let's say, like Gao. Mm. If she's that strong, there has to be somebody under her that's relatively strong.
Yeah, lieutenant, co-commander.
General, somebody. But the same thing with actually, no. 3 of the members are dead.
So right now you got the black dude, the Chinese dude, and the
Alexandra.
The only one that we think are still alive is Gao and
Bakudo.
Bakudo's dead. They cut off his head.
That's 4.
Yeah, so the only one left is really Gao.
Oh shit, that's right.
I don't remember seeing Gao actually die.
Gao, no, she didn't. Remember that scene? They show her kind of in the dragon, and Daredevil and Elektra are fighting, and she's kind of like sees it, and she's kind of like scoots out.
But that's Gao. She's like, I can't win this fight. I'm gone.
Sneaky. As Mr. D, sneaky.
But I can see her being maybe for the Defenders the continuous bad guy, since everybody's still connected through the hand. But I'm more hoping that next season they'll go more towards the Heroes for Hire, where each one of them, because each one of them needs money. If we think about, they made several Easter eggs. Luke Cage ain't making no money. He's doing free shit. Everything's pro bono, for free. Matt Murdock ain't pro bono everything. He ain't making no money.
Bro, but I'm going to be real. If they make it about money, that shit ain't going to make no sense.
But
your friend is fucking a billionaire, Danny Rand. Nigga, just drop me a stack, nigga. I just saved your life, nigga.
I know.
I just saved you. I saved your life. I better never want for no food in my life.
They do like that. He makes their headquarters, like, because he doesn't like to use his money. I think like he's gonna make their headquarters with his money, but that's gonna be the extent of like his money. They're gonna do like hero for hire concept, I don't think they're really gonna have to worry about the money. I think it's gonna be
just about
the missions.
Yeah, like basically, we're heroes for hire. We're not charging you, but this is how we get our clientele. This is how we get basically like Ghostbusters. This is how you call us.
You have a detective that already does that. You have a lawyer that can find the cases. You have a dude that's all about justice, basically. Then you have a weird wild card guy. So I mean,
for mystical things, we'll say.
Yeah, anything mystical. So that I feel like that should go with that, but I think they'll go more with the gal route.
Okay, I think they will go with the gal route, especially after what we saw with the illusion of Danny's friend with Gal, the conversation, because he could potentially, he wasn't seen in this whole season, and he can potentially be, I won't say a major villain, but he could be a definite problem. Definite problem for that group.
Because, I mean, with his particular thing, we know there's all kinds of immortal weapons around the world, and we know that that's one of the things he will have to deal with as being the Iron Fist. So, like, I know his next season is going to have to be something about that. Him learning about the other immortal fists, because they
and
said that in his
more
show.
Of his potential.
Yeah, like, if they don't do the two hands by the end of next season, I think I'm gonna be annoyed, because it's past that point where the Iron Fist only has one fist. He should have already had it by now.
The other question that I have, I guess, moving forward would be, again, this is a spoiler. If you thought Daredevil died, then you're not watching the whole shit. But what I think is going to be the prediction for next season is, for season 2 of The Defenders, is that basically they're going to somehow get word that Daredevil's alive.
Yeah, because, I mean, the Daredevil season is before the next Defender.
Somehow that Daredevil is alive, and they're going to try to figure out either finding him and why he was captured. And I think that's going to allude to kind of mentioning earlier about that Daredevil had the potential of being
a mortal weapon.
A mortal weapon. And so I think they're going to play with that, as well as we're going to learn more about Elektra. Not necessarily more about who she is and stuff like that, but I think we're going to learn more about her intentions, because I still think her intentions, even though she still loves Matt, I think they're still going to be duplicitous in the regard of she's power hungry. And
I want to say this to Netflix. Please don't make an Elektra series. I like Elektra, but there's been like 5 Elektra series and they were all crap. There's been a movie, it was crap. Please don't do it. Just let her be a side character in Daredevil, please. Like, I love the actress. She's awesome. She's amazing. But please just don't do it. I'm asking you from the deepest part of my Marvel heart, don't do it.
I'll say, with all that, is there anything else you want to say before we get out of here? There's going to be one more thing I'm going to talk to you about before we get out.
One more prediction, and it's about something that we haven't brought up, but I think next season Defenders will have something, or either he'll be on the team or he'll be against the team. The Punisher.
Yep, that was the final step. So you took it right there.
They made sure we didn't see him this whole entire series, and
but you did see. If you watch all the way to the very, very end, there was I won't even say a preview, but a little tease, a little tease of him with a sledgehammer.
Yeah. So I think that's going to be it.
I would say pay attention very closely to what he's saying.
Okay, I got to check that again.
In that, because he alludes to what the Punisher's about. Just put it that way. He alludes to who the Punisher ain't. He ain't no joke. That is something we definitely will have a podcast on that. We'll get into a little bit more detail. So let us know what you think about the Punisher and Daredevil.
I think it's coming out in a couple weeks too.
Yeah, Jessica Jones and Iron Fist. Let us know if we were being too harsh on Finn Jones. Hey, Conley, I want to shout out Conley Wing again, man. I think she did a great job in that show. I think Claire Rosario Dawson did an excellent job as well. Jessica Henwick is Conley Wing. Michael Coulter, Christine Ritter, and Charlie Cox. I think all of you guys did an amazing job of portraying the emotions. And definitely want to shout out to Misty Knight, Simone Missick. Again, if I'm horrible with names, so don't kill me. But I thought she did a very good job, and I'm hoping somebody at Netflix is listening and takes my idea about making a solo series with her and her partner that's in the book, and having them as a detective agency, kind of like a mix between the Lady Detectives that was on, I think it was on HBO, mixed with True Detectives, mixed with some Marvel shit.
Should be awesome.
I think that shit
be a great show.
Dope. Hey,
Feminist power men too, man. All about females doing their own thing, not relying on the men.
And not needing nobody. Woo. I think that would be a dope movie or a dope show. If you need writers, co-founders at TheSonicBreakdown.com, I can help with that. And if you steal my idea, just give me credit and some money for it. But credit and money, please.
Heard it here first.
So I want to say thanks again, Ready, for another great podcast on the Defenders, man. We're definitely going to get you guys some more Marvel stuff out. Like I said, we got a lot of things in the works, so stay tuned. All I'm going to say is T'Challa. And if you don't get that, that's going to be my little Easter egg hint. So again, thank you for listening to the Stay Woke podcast that's presented by TheSonicBreakdown.com. You know our motto: live, listen to some great music, and for this case, watch some great TV shows, some great movies, and love more. We out.